The call came during my evening yoga session, right as I was attempting to find peace in a warrior pose. Lucas's ringtone shattered my concentration like a brick through glass. I knew before answering something was wrong. My husband never called during his mother's sacred dinner hours. "Lonnie, I need you to go stay with Mother. Grandmother Marty fell and broke her leg. Mother's beside herself." My stomach clenched. Not because of Marty's accident, but because I knew exactly what this meant. I'd spent 3 years as a professional caregiver before marrying Lucas. Now his mother would expect those skills for free. What about the home health aide they already have? Mother fired her last week. Something about stealing silverware. Lucas's voice carried that familiar note of dismissal. "Look, they need you. I'll be tied up with the merger for at least 2 weeks. You're not working anyway." Not working. As if managing our household and maintaining his social calendar wasn't work. I pressed my fingertips against my temples. "Lucas, your mother and I. You know how things are between us. For God's sake, Lonnie, she's family. Just do this for me, okay? Family." Right. The same woman who'd called me a gold digger at our wedding reception. The same one who'd spent 3 years trying to convince Lucas I wasn't Mitchell material. "Fine," I said. "When do they need me?" "Tonight." "I've already told Mother you're coming." Of course he had. I ended the call and stared at my reflection in the yoga room mirror. The woman looking back at me seemed smaller somehow, diminished. I'd promised myself I wouldn't let Evelyn Carter Mitchell push me around anymore. Yet here I was, running at her beck and call. I packed quickly. Enough clothes for 2 weeks, my laptop, and the anxiety medication I'd started taking after our last extended family gathering. The drive to the Carter Mitchell estate took 40 minutes, each mile adding another layer of dread. The mansion loomed ahead, all Georgian columns and perfectly manicured hedges. Evelyn stood in the doorway, her silver hair immaculate, her posture rigid as ever. She didn't smile. "Finally. Mother's been asking for her pain medication for the past hour."
"No hello."
"No thank you." I bit back a response and followed her inside. The house smelled of furniture polish and old money. "Mother's in the East Wing guest room," Evelyn said, her heels clicking against the marble floor. "I've had the staff move her from upstairs. You'll stay in the adjoining room to monitor her at night." "Where's the doctor's care plan?" "I'll need to know her medication schedule." Evelyn waved dismissively. "It's all in her room." "Really, Leilani, I expected you to be here sooner." A proper daughter-in-law would have come immediately. I clutched my overnight bag tighter, nails digging into the leather. "I came as soon as Lucas called." "Yes, well." She paused at Marty's door. "Do try to keep her quiet. I have the garden club coming tomorrow, and I can't have her moaning disrupting our meeting." Before I could respond, she turned and clicked away down the hall, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a growing sense of unease. I took a deep breath and opened the door. Marty lay in bed, her eyes closed, looking frilier than I remembered. But something wasn't right. Her supposedly broken leg rested on top of the covers, and I'd seen enough injuries in my career to know that the positioning was all wrong. Her eyes snapped open as I approached, and a familiar mischievous glint appeared, one I'd seen countless times when she was plotting something at family gatherings. "Hello, dear," she said softly. "I was wondering when they'd drag you into this mess." That's when I knew. This wasn't about a broken leg at all. This was something else entirely, and I'd just been pulled into whatever game Marty was playing. "We need to talk," she whispered, patting the bed beside her. "But first, close that door. What I'm about to tell you. Well, let's just say Evelyn won't be happy when she finds out what's really going on." 3 days into my stay at the Carter Mitchell estate, and I'd already witnessed 4 arguments between Evelyn and Marty, each one more vicious than the last, with barbs wrapped in silk and daggers hidden in pleasantries. "Mother, you haven't touched your breakfast again." Evelyn's voice carried through the morning room, sharp as cut crystal. "Leilani, I'm paying you to ensure she eats properly." "You're not paying me anything," I said, measuring Marty's blood pressure. The numbers were perfect, just like yesterday. "And she ate toast an hour ago." Marty's hand found mine under the blood pressure cuff, squeezing gently. "Evelyn dear, do stop hovering. You're giving me indigestion." "Everything gives you indigestion these days." Evelyn's heels clicked against the hardwood as she approached. "Perhaps if you'd stop being so difficult. Perhaps if you'd stop treating me like a child." "Ladies," I interrupted, removing the cuff. "Marty needs rest. Doctor's orders." Evelyn's laugh could have frosted glass. "And now the help is giving orders." "Really, Mother, I don't know why you insist on having her here." My phone buzzed. Lucas calling again. 3rd time today. I let it go to voicemail, just like the others. He'd been checking in hourly, not out of concern for Marty, but because his mother had been complaining about my attitude. "Leilani knows more about care than that agency nurse you hired," Marty said, her voice steady but her hands trembling slightly. "The one who kept forgetting my medication schedule. The one who recognized her place in this household." Evelyn snapped. She turned to me. "Speaking of which, the garden club will be here at 2. Mother needs to be presentable. And quiet." I stood, positioning myself between them. "Marty's not a prop for your social gatherings. She needs genuine rest, not." "I pay the bills in this house," Evelyn cut in. "And while you're here, you'll do as I say. Unless you'd like me to tell Lucas about that interesting lunch you had with his brother last month." The air left my lungs. She'd had me followed. Of course she had. The lunch with Ben had been innocent, just 2 people sharing their frustrations about the family, but Evelyn would twist it into something else entirely. "That's enough." Marty's voice carried an authority I hadn't heard before. "Evelyn, get out. Now." "Mother." "Out." Evelyn's face tightened, but she left, slamming the door behind her. The silence that followed felt like the aftermath of a storm. "Don't let her get to you," Marty said softly. "She's always been threatened by strong women. It's why she drove Ben away. Why she's trying to drive you away now." I sank into the chair beside her bed. "Lucas won't believe her about Ben. He knows I wouldn't. Lucas believes whatever his mother tells him. Just like his father did." Marty's eyes grew distant. "I watched Evelyn destroy that man's spirit piece by piece. Now she's doing the same to you." My phone buzzed again. "Lucas." This time I answered, stepping into the hallway. "Where have you been?" he demanded. "Mother says you're being impossible." "I'm taking care of your grandmother, Lucas. Like you asked." By undermining Mother at every turn? By questioning her authority in her own house? By doing what's medically necessary for Marty, I said, my voice trembling. "Your mother wants to parade her around like a show pony for her friends. Mother knows what's best. She always has." The dismissal in his voice was familiar now. When had that happened? When had he stopped being the man I married? "Lucas, we need to talk. Really talk. About us, about your mother's control over." "I have to go." Just do what Mother says, okay? Please?" "For me." The line went dead before I could respond. I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. When I returned to Marty's room, she was sitting straighter, a determined look in her eyes. "Close the door, dear. It's time I told you what's really going on in this house, and why I need your help to end it." I closed the door, my heart pounding. Whatever Marty was about to reveal, I knew it would change everything. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what I needed. The garden club meeting had ended hours ago, but my hands still shook from what I'd witnessed. I paced Marty's room in the dark, replaying the scene. Evelyn parading her mother around like a trophy, Marty's theatrical groans of pain, the sympathetic clucks from blue-haired socialites. But it was what happened after they left that changed everything. "Help me up," Marty had whispered once the house emptied. "These pillows are suffocating me." I'd reached to adjust them, but she grabbed my wrist with surprising strength and pulled herself upright. Then, without warning or assistance, she'd swung her broken leg off the bed and stood. "Close your mouth, dear. You'll catch flies." She'd smiled, stretching like a cat. Evelyn's not the only one who can play games. Now, hours later, Marty sat in her armchair, looking more regal than frail. "You're taking this rather well." "Well," I laughed, the sound brittle. "You've been lying to everyone. To me. I've been waiting." She reached for a leather-bound folder on her side table. "Waiting to see if you were different from the others. If you had the spine to help me fix this mess." "Fix what mess?" "This family. What Evelyn's turned it into." She opened the folder, revealing property deeds, bank statements, and legal documents. "Did you know this house isn't actually hers?" "Nothing is. It's all in my name." My throat went dry. "Does Lucas know?" "Lucas knows what his mother tells him. Just like he knows what she tells him about you and Ben." The mention of Ben's name made my stomach clench. That lunch meant nothing. But it could have. Marty's eyes pierced mine. Ben was always the stronger one. That's why Evelyn drove him away. She couldn't control him like she controls Lucas. A knock at the door made us both jump. Evelyn entered without waiting for a response, her face flushed with triumph from her successful afternoon. "Really, Mother, still awake?" "Leilani, I told you she needs rest." She paused, noticing the papers. "What are those?" Just some light reading, Marty said, sliding the folder under her blanket. Leilani's been helping me organize my affairs. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. That's not necessary. I handle all the family paperwork. You handle what I allow you to handle. Marty's voice carried an edge I'd never heard before. Just like you handled Ben's inheritance? The color drained from Evelyn's face. Mother, I know what you did, Marty continued. I know about the forged documents, the lost trust fund. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? My phone buzzed. Lucas again. I silenced it, transfixed by the scene unfolding before me. Everything I did was for this family, Evelyn hissed. To keep us together, to maintain our position. To maintain your control, I said, surprising myself. Just like you're trying to control my marriage. Evelyn turned on me, her mask slipping. You ungrateful little. That's enough. Marty stood suddenly, causing Evelyn to stumble backward. Oh yes, dear. I can walk. I can do quite a lot of things you don't know about, including change my will. The silence that followed was deafening. Evelyn stared at her mother, then at me, her carefully maintained composure cracking. Leilani, she said, her voice honey-sweet again, perhaps it's time you went home to Lucas. I'm sure he misses you. She's not going anywhere, Marty said. In fact, she's exactly where she needs to be. Now get out of my room. After Evelyn left, slamming the door behind her, Marty sank back into her chair. Well, that was invigorating. She patted the folder. Now, shall we discuss how to really shake things up? I thought about Lucas, probably still calling, still believing his mother's version of reality. About Ben, somewhere out there, free from all this manipulation. About my own dignity, eroding day by day in this gilded cage. Yes, I said, sitting down beside her. Let's shake things up. Marty's smile was razor-sharp in the dim light. Good girl. Because what I'm about to propose will either save this family or tear it apart completely. Are you ready for that? I thought about Evelyn's threats, Lucas's betrayal, and my own fading sense of self. I'm ready for anything. Perfect, Marty said, opening the folder again. Then let's begin. Lucas showed up unannounced at midnight, reeking of expensive scotch and his mother's influence. I found him in Marty's sitting room, rifling through her desk drawers. What are you doing? I kept my voice low, though my heart hammered. He jumped, nearly dropping the papers in his hands. Looking for proof. His words slurred slightly. Mother says you and grandmother are plotting something. Your mother says a lot of things. I moved closer, recognizing Marty's legal documents scattered across the desk. Does she know you're here? Of course she knows. She's worried about you, Lonnie. About us. He reached for me, but I stepped back. You've changed since coming here. I've woken up. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked away the silence between us. Lucas had loosened his tie, his usually perfect hair disheveled. He looked lost, like a child searching for permission to misbehave. Ben called me today, he said suddenly. My stomach dropped. What? Asked about you. About Mother. Said he's coming home. Lucas's laugh was bitter. Funny timing, don't you think? Right when you and grandmother start acting strange. Before I could respond, the lights flicked on. Marty stood in the doorway, perfectly steady on her supposedly broken leg. Well, she said, this is disappointing but not surprising. Lucas staggered backward. You're walking? Mother said. Your mother says a lot of things, Marty echoed my words. Like how she protected you from the truth about your father's death. The color drained from Lucas's face. What about father's death? Don't. I whispered, remembering what Marty had told me earlier that day. About the changed medication, the convenient accident, the insurance policy that saved the family from bankruptcy. He deserves to know, Marty said. About everything. The forged documents, Ben's stolen inheritance, your father's. Lies. Lucas slammed his fist on the desk. Mother would never. But she did. Marty's voice was steel. And now she sent you here to spy on us. To protect her secrets. I came to protect my wife. Your wife. I couldn't hold back anymore. When was the last time you protected me from anything? From your mother's insults? From her threats? From her private investigators following me? Lucas turned to me, swaying slightly. She was right about you. You're trying to turn everyone against her. Against me. No, darling. Evelyn's voice cut through the room like ice. She stood behind Marty, elegant even at midnight. They're trying to destroy our family. Just like Ben tried. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Ben. Don't trust anyone. Almost there. Mother. Lucas straightened, seeking approval like always. Grandmother's been lying about her injury. I know. Evelyn stepped forward. Just like I know about their little meeting with my lawyer yesterday. About the changes they're trying to make to the will. Marty's sharp intake of breath confirmed my fears. Our plans had been discovered. The house is mine, Evelyn continued. Everything is mine. I've made sure of that. She pulled out a document from her robe pocket. Signed this morning. Mother's been declared mentally incompetent. I'm her legal guardian now. The world tilted. I grabbed the desk for support, remembering Marty's words from earlier. Whatever happens, don't let them win. You can't do this, I said. I already have. Evelyn's smile was triumphant. And now, dear Lilani, you have a choice. Stay and support your husband, or leave with nothing. Because if you choose wrong, I'll make sure everyone knows about your affair with Ben. There was no affair, I whispered. Prove it. Lucas watched me waiting. In his eyes, I saw our entire marriage, the slow erosion of love, the growing shadow of his mother's control. The man he could have been versus the man he'd become. My phone buzzed again. Then, here. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, heavy and determined. Everything was about to change, and I had seconds to decide which side of history I'd stand on. I looked at Marty, saw the steel in her eyes, and made my choice. Ben's arrival shattered the tension like a hammer through glass. He stood in the doorway, briefcase in hand, looking nothing like the broken man who'd fled 5 years ago. Behind him, a woman in a sharp suit clutched a leather portfolio, exactly the kind lawyers carry when they're about to destroy lives. You're too late, Evelyn said, waving her guardianship papers. I've already won. Have you? Ben's smile was razor-sharp. Mother, show them. Marty pulled a phone from her cardigan pocket and pressed play. Evelyn's voice filled the room, crystal clear. Just change the medication dosage. No one will question it. It worked with Richard. It'll work with Mother. Lucas stumbled backward. Mother, what is she playing? Evidence, the lawyer said, stepping forward. Of premeditated attempted murder. Among other things. My hands shook as I reached for the desk to steady myself. All those times Evelyn had insisted on personally administering Marty's medication. All those suspicious dizzy spells. It's not what you think. Evelyn's composure cracked slightly. I was protecting our legacy. Our name. By killing your husband? Ben's voice cut like steel. By stealing my inheritance? By driving me away with false accusations. You were weak. Evelyn spat. Just like your father. Just like her. She jabbed a finger at me. This family needs strength to survive. No, I said, finding my voice. This family needs truth to survive. Lucas stood between us all, swaying slightly. Ben, you can't believe. The recordings don't lie, Ben interrupted. Neither do the financial records. Or father's autopsy report. The lawyer opened her portfolio. Mrs. Carter Mitchell, we have enough evidence to pursue criminal charges. However, my clients are willing to discuss alternatives. Client. Lucas turned to me. Lonnie, what have you done? What you should have done, I said. Protected your grandmother. Protected the truth. Marty stood straighter, her facade of frailty completely gone. Evelyn, you have one chance. Sign over control of the estate to me, resign from the family company board, and leave. Otherwise, these recordings go to the police. You wouldn't dare. But Evelyn's hand trembled as she clutched her guardianship papers. Lucas, tell them. Tell them what she's really like. How she's turned you against me. Lucas looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. Did you know? About father. You suspected, you whispered. But I needed proof. We all did. Sign the papers, Mother, Ben said, pulling documents from his briefcase. Or I start making calls. The grandfather clock struck 1, its chimes echoing through the sudden silence. I watched Evelyn's face, seeing the moment her mask finally cracked completely. She'd built her empire on secrets and lies, and now those very weapons were being turned against her. Lucas, she pleaded. My darling boy, you know everything I did was for you. But Lucas had found the autopsy report in the lawyer's portfolio. His hands shook as he read, his face growing paler with each page. Sign, Marty commanded. Now. The scratch of Evelyn's pen on paper sounded like victory. But as I watched Lucas's world crumble, as I saw the pain in Ben's eyes, I realized revenge wasn't the clean, satisfying thing I'd imagined. It was messy, complicated, and the collateral damage could never be undone. Get out, Marty said once the papers were signed. Both of you. Evelyn straightened her spine one last time. This isn't over. Yes, I said, it is. As they left, Evelyn leading, Lucas trailing behind like a lost child, Ben turned to me. You okay? I wasn't. Nothing about this was okay. But watching them go, knowing the truth was finally out, feeling the weight of secrets lifting from my shoulders, it felt like breathing for the first time in years. What now? I asked Marty. She smiled, tired but triumphant. Now, my dear, we rebuild. But first, I believe we all need a drink. The lawyer began organizing papers. Ben poured scotch, and somewhere in the house, a door slammed, the sound of an era ending. The revenge we'd planned had worked perfectly, but its taste was bittersweet on my tongue. 3 days after Evelyn's departure, Lucas appeared at my door with divorce papers and a restraining order. Not against me, against Marty and Ben. The letterhead belonged to the most expensive law firm in the state. Mother's not finished, he said, voice hollow. She's claiming elder abuse. Says you and Ben manipulated grandmother into changing her will. I stared at the stack of documents. Those recordings. Inadmissible. Obtained without consent. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Mother's lawyers say they can prove grandmother was coerced. The morning sun filtered through our living room windows, highlighting dust motes and memories. 3 years of marriage reduced to legal threats and accusations. She killed your father, I whispered. She protected the family. His hands trembled. Like she's protecting it now. Sign these, Lonnie. Walk away. Before she destroys you too. My phone buzzed, Ben calling again. I'd been ignoring him since yesterday, when Marty had been served with her own set of papers. The mighty Carter Mitchell empire was fighting back, and we were hemorrhaging money trying to keep up. You know what she did was wrong. Wrong. Lucas laughed, bitter and broken. Everything I thought I knew was wrong. My father's death, Ben's exile, our marriage. He finally looked at me. Were you sleeping with him? What? Ben. Mother has photos. You meeting him months ago. The lunch dates. The phone calls. My stomach churned. Planning this. We were planning this. Planning to destroy our family. Planning to save it. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw 2 police cars in our driveway. Lucas stepped back, and I suddenly understood. What did you do? I'm sorry, he said, but his eyes were cold. Mother's pressing charges. Conspiracy, fraud, elder abuse. They're here for you and Ben. My phone buzzed again, Marty this time. I answered on speaker. They're taking the house, her voice crackled. Evelyn's lawyers found a loophole. Everything's frozen until the investigation. Don't say anything else, I cut in, watching Lucas's face. They're here. Run, she whispered. Ben has a plan. Run now. But it was too late. The police were already at the door, and Lucas, my husband, my betrayer, was opening it. Mrs. Mitchell? An officer stepped forward. We have a warrant for your arrest. The handcuffs were cold, but Lucas's silence was colder. As they led me out, past curious neighbors and flashing phones, I saw Evelyn's car parked across the street. She sat in the back, watching through tinted windows, and I finally understood the true cost of revenge. They took me to the station, fingerprinted me, photographed me like a common criminal. My court-appointed lawyer looked tired before we even started. They have a strong case, she said, flipping through papers. Mrs. Carter Mitchell's influence runs deep. Judges, prosecutors. This won't be easy. The recordings. Inadmissible. And Mrs. Carter Mitchell has witnesses willing to testify about your manipulation of Martha Carter. Your history of instability. What history? She pulled out a file. Psychiatric records. Anxiety medication. Couples therapy. All painting a picture of someone desperate to secure their position in a wealthy family. My chest tightened. Everything we'd done to expose the truth was being twisted, used against us. Evelyn wasn't just fighting back. She was systematically destroying us. The lawyer's phone buzzed. She checked it, her expression darkening. Ben Mitchell was just arrested trying to leave the country. And Martha Carter has been temporarily committed for psychiatric evaluation. The room spun. Everything we'd planned, everyone I'd tried to protect, it was falling apart. Evelyn hadn't just outmaneuvered us. She'd been 10 steps ahead the entire time. What do we do? I asked. The lawyer closed her files. We take the deal they're offering. You plead guilty to lesser charges. Agree to never contact the family again. Otherwise, she shrugged. Hope you like orange jumpsuits. Through the interview room window, I watched Lucas walk past with his mother's lawyers. He didn't look my way. Somewhere in the city, Marty was being locked away, Ben was being booked, and Evelyn was finally getting what she'd always wanted: complete control. I thought revenge would taste like victory. Instead, it tasted like ashes and defeat. The psychiatric facility's visiting room smelled of industrial cleaner and despair. Marty sat across from me, looking smaller in her hospital gown, but her eyes blazed with familiar determination. They found Richard's real autopsy report, she whispered. The one Evelyn buried. Ben's lawyer has it. My hands shook as I glanced at the observation window. How? Richard kept copies. Of everything. A thin smile crossed her face. Hidden in his hunting cabin. The one place Evelyn never looked. Before I could respond, the door opened. Evelyn glided in, Lucas trailing behind her like a shadow. My court-appointed lawyer had warned me against this meeting, but when Evelyn's office called demanding my presence, I knew we'd reached the endgame. Quite the family reunion, Evelyn said, settling into a chair. Though I suppose you won't be family much longer. Lucas wouldn't look at me. The divorce papers sat and signed in my lawyer's office. I have a proposition, Evelyn continued. Drop the allegations. Sign a statement admitting you manipulated Mother for financial gain. In return, all charges disappear. And if I don't, then Ben's evidence never sees daylight, and you all go to prison. She pulled out her phone, showing an email. The judge handling your case owes me several favors. You killed him. Marty's voice cut through the tension. You killed my son-in-law. I protected this family. Evelyn's mask slipped slightly. Like I'm protecting it now. No. Lucas spoke for the first time, his voice rough. You destroyed this family. And I let you. He pulled something from his jacket, a USB drive. Ben's not the only one with copies. Father gave me this before the accident. I never looked at it. Until now. Evelyn's composure cracked. Lucas, darling. Don't. He placed the drive on the table. It's over, Mother. I've already sent copies to the district attorney. The observation window suddenly filled with faces. Police, lawyers, witnesses. This wasn't just a family meeting. It was a sting. You orchestrated this, Evelyn said to me, realization dawning. You knew. No, I said. He did. The door opened again. Ben entered, followed by 2 detectives. Hello, Mother. Surprised to see me out of jail. He nodded to Lucas. Thank you, brother, for finally choosing the truth. Evelyn stood, her world crumbling around her. Everything I did was for this family. For you boys. For our name. Our name. Lucas laughed bitterly. Our name is poison. Because of you. The detectives moved forward, handcuffs ready. Evelyn's face contorted with rage. You ungrateful. She lunged for the USB drive. But Marty was faster. My former mother-in-law and her elderly mother grappled over the table, years of resentment and manipulation exploding into physical violence. Enough. I grabbed Evelyn's arm, pulling her back. She swung around, her perfectly manicured nails raking across my face. The detectives rushed in, restraining her as she screamed accusations and threats. Mrs. Carter Mitchell, one detective said, you're under arrest for the murder of Richard Mitchell, attempted murder of Martha Carter, and conspiracy to commit fraud. As they led her away, she turned back one last time. I made this family what it is. No, Marty said, straightening in her chair. You destroyed what it was. Now we'll rebuild what it can be. Lucas touched my bleeding cheek gently. I'm sorry. For everything. I know. I stepped back from his touch. Some breaks can't be mended. Ben moved to help Marty up, but she waved him away, standing on her own. The frail old woman act was finally, permanently retired. Well, she said, surveying her fractured family. Shall we go home? The real work of healing is just beginning. Through the window, I watched Evelyn being led away in handcuffs, her perfect facade shattered. Revenge hadn't tasted like victory after all. It tasted like truth, bitter, necessary, and ultimately freeing. Lucas signed the divorce papers that afternoon. Ben helped Marty reclaim her house. And I walked away from the Carter Mitchell fortune, taking nothing but my dignity and the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes justice wears the face of karma. The Carter Mitchell mansion sold at auction while Evelyn awaited trial. I watched from across the street as strangers carted away antiques and family portraits, dismantling a dynasty piece by piece. Ready? Ben stood beside me, hands in his pockets. Marty's waiting at the new place. The nursing home where I now worked had a private wing. Bright, modern, nothing like the oppressive grandeur of the mansion. Marty had chosen it herself, saying she wanted to be somewhere that smelled of fresh paint instead of old secrets. Almost. I touched the iron gates one last time, just saying goodbye. To what? The misery. To who I was when I came here. Lucas had sent one final letter before leaving for Europe. I left it unopened on my kitchen counter, next to the divorce papers bearing his signature. Some answers weren't worth seeking. At the nursing home, Marty held court in the garden, teaching other residents her favorite card game, the one Evelyn had always dismissed as common. "You're late," she called out. "I've already won 3 hands." "And lost 2?" her opponent chuckled. "Don't let her fool you. She's not as sharp as she pretends." "I'm exactly as sharp as I need to be," Marty winked. "Sharp enough to know when these two are dancing around each other instead of facing facts." Ben shifted beside me. We'd been careful, professional, keeping our growing connection buried under layers of family obligation and shared trauma. But Marty saw everything. She always had. "The prosecutor called," I said, changing the subject. "They want us both to testify next month." "Good." Marty dealt another hand. "It's time everyone heard the truth. All of it. Even the parts that make us look bad? Especially those parts." She laid down her cards, a winning hand. "Real justice isn't about looking good. It's about being honest." The evening sun painted everything golden, reminding me of that first night at the mansion. I'd arrived seeking inside me. Instead, I'd found something different. Strength I didn't know I had, family in unexpected places, and truth in all its messy glory. "I have something for you," Ben said later, as we walked through the garden. He pulled out a familiar USB drive. "There's more on here than what we showed the police. Things about Father, about the family history. Things you should know before." "Before what?" He stopped walking. "Before you decide if you want any part of this family's future." A year ago, I would have grabbed that drive, hungry for more ammunition, more secrets to weaponize. Now I just felt tired. Tired of looking backward, of feeding the cycle of revenge and retribution. "Keep it," I said. "Some stories don't need to be told." "And us?" "Our story. Behind us." Marty laughed at something her card partner said. The sound carried no bitterness, no hidden agenda. Just pure, simple joy. "Our story," I said, "hasn't been written yet." I left the USB drive on Marty's nightstand later that night, next to her favorite photos. One of Richard in his hunting cabin, one of Ben and Lucas as children, and a new one of all of us in the garden. Let her decide which secrets deserved sunlight and which belonged in shadow. The next morning, I found it in my mailbox, wrapped in a note. "The past is a lesson, not a prison. Now go make some trouble of your own." Ben was waiting in the parking lot when I arrived for my shift, 2 coffee cups in hand. "Marty says you're off today. Says we have her blessing to be scandalous." I thought about revenge, about justice, about how healing rarely looks the way we expect. About how sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what hurt you, but building something better from the ruins. "Scandalous sounds perfect," I said, taking the coffee. "But first, I need to check on my favorite troublemaker." Through the window, I could see Marty setting up her card table, already drawing a crowd. Some stories end with a bang, others with a whimper. Ours ended with a shuffle of cards and the quiet certainty that sometimes, just sometimes, karma gets it right.